Hello, I'm Dhanya Rajendran, and you're watching the News Minute. What happens when a man's death becomes a rallying point for thousands of people, even though he's not a politician or a celebrity? This is what panned out in Andhra Pradesh last year as Christian preacher Praveen Pagadala was found dead on March 25, 2025 at the NH16 highway between Hyderabad to Rajahmundry. Thousands of Christians mobilized both in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. They believe that his death was a hate crime, as Praveen was someone who would frequently take on Hindu and Islamic thinkers on live television, and these were people that he accused of spreading hatred against Christianity. The police launched a major investigation, and within days, the Andhra police said that Praveen had purchased and consumed alcohol, that he had 3 accidents during this journey, and finally he died in a 4th accident. But his supporters were not ready to believe the police version. On the News Minute, we have published a long-form story done by my colleague Janvi on Praveen Pagadala, what his life meant, what his death meant, and also what he means now to thousands of Christians across not just the Telugu states, but outside too. Janvi is in fact joining me in the studio to speak about the story. Janvi, this death happened a year ago. Incidentally, by the time you finish the story, and it's a really long story, around 8,000, 9,000 words, so please do read it on the website. It's going to be the first anniversary of his death, right? So why did we decide to do this long form?
So Praveen Pagadala died on March 24th, 2025. His body was found the next day. So since then, for almost 3 weeks, Telugu media was constantly covering his death and the protests around it and what could have been the reason. So at that time when we tried to cover it, going beyond a news story to look at what actually could have happened, we found it a bit difficult because so during those 3 weeks before the police finally presented their findings, when we tried to understand what all these theories were that were coming up in the media, that he had been drinking and he had been driving rashly and things like that, we couldn't really figure out how to
present it, right? So I think we were looking at more like a news story. I remember we had lots of small news copies initially, also because it's not very safe to do that kind of copies when the situation is volatile. I thought that's the call we had taken. But why did you decide to do the long form?
So I don't think it really started off as such a deep dive. So yeah, like once the police, until the police revealed their findings, we couldn't really go about questioning any of these media versions. And then once that happened, I think a lot of Christians who were not convinced with the police conclusion, they still felt like there were questions to be asked, and they kept reaching out to us saying, saying they wanted to learn more about what had happened. I think then again, when we started to try to talk to people who were close to him, or perhaps people who had already raised questions during the investigation, again, this was just after his death. I think we kept hitting roadblocks because a lot of people were reluctant to talk. So then we had to understand that reluctance, and I think it took us a while to maybe figure out that a lot of people were afraid of, because a lot of people who had already questioned the police investigation had faced cases for making insightful speeches. So, and the Chief Minister, Chandrababu Naidu, had already, once the investigation had concluded, he said that he kind of warned people to not incite communal tensions in a way. So,
which is the reason why a lot of the friends that we reached out to initially, I also spoke to people who worked with him. We were getting so many letters, people reaching out to us on social media, writing letters. Even South Central got so many letters saying that you should look at it. I remember reaching out to his friends and nobody was giving a clear answer as to why they didn't want to talk. Finally, it was one friend who said that it is because cases will be filed against us too. By this point, I think, Janvi, we realized that the story cannot be about the death alone, because we can't reinvestigate the death in many ways. We have to look at what Praveen's life meant, right? So the story actually tells you that Praveen was not a preacher or a pastor, as he is popularly known in the media, but he is a Christian apologetic. What does that mean?
So after Praveen died, there were already a lot of videos of his speeches and debates on YouTube, Facebook, etc. But after he died, people started uploading a lot more videos. So when I started to just wanted to understand what his ideas were and why people were so moved by his death, initially the speeches I saw were ones where he talks about. There are a lot of speeches about different subjects. Some are about like Christian missionaries' contribution to progressive reforms in Indian history. Some are about just general things like how women should be, how men should be. But when I finally spoke to someone who didn't know him personally, but was a Telugu Christian from Andhra who had followed this whole issue and who still felt like justice had not been served, they mentioned that for a lot of Telugu Christians, their introduction to Praveen was this show called Asalaina Prashna, Sisalaina Jawabu on Rakshana TV. Rakshana TV is a 24-hour Christian Telugu channel. So when I started watching those debates is when I think I started realizing what the term apologetic meant. So Praveen was part of this informal group called Sakshi Apologetics Network. They all identify as apologetics. So when he died in the media, he was constantly referred to as a pastor, which is something that Telugu media uses for Christian leaders often, regardless of whether they actually have a pastorate. But so yeah, in his case, he was widely identified as a pastor, but he's actually an apologetic, which is a very, very old tradition in the church, which is theologians who defend Christianity against critics, against atheists, agnostics, people of other religions, through structured debate.
So these are basically people who would go make speeches, whether it's on TV like Praveen did or in halls or wherever, and they talk about the tenets of Christianity. They will also talk about the things that other religions perhaps may be spreading, which is false against Christianity, right? So what did Sakshi exactly do?
This group started organizing themselves in the mid-2000s. And what they say is that initially it started as a response to a few Islamic preachers in Hyderabad and Old City and parts of Telangana who they thought were spreading false propaganda against Christianity. So that's how they started off. And apologetics is not just against other religions. They would, for example, when the Da Vinci Code, the film came out in 2006, they would do work to counter the ideas in that film as well, because they saw it as an attack on Christianity and the core doctrines of the religion. They would also debate atheists and fellow Christians on their interpretation of the Bible and things like that. But so initially it started off as mainly to counter Islamic preachers, and they would do it in a very organized way. So they all agreed to be on a WhatsApp group, a bunch of Muslim leaders and a bunch of Christian apologetics who they were training for it as a skill.
Can you imagine that? A group of Islamic preachers and Christian preachers on one group actually, talking and debating. I can't even imagine that happening today.
And this is supposed to be very, one of Praveen's friends, Naveen Kumar Vadde, he explains how they would pit one Muslim and one Christian person, apologetics, against each other in the WhatsApp group. And everyone else is supposed to be silent and just watch. They're given the topic and they're supposed to debate. And Naveen told me how that even helped him improve his writing skills. So they were taking this very seriously and it was very civil and organized. They were all on friendly terms. So slowly, what Praveen says is that post 2014 and closer to 2017-18, they sensed a rise in more Hindutva fundamentalism in southern states. So a lot of the most active members are from Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Telangana, members of this network. So they felt that they should, they also sensed, they felt that a lot of these organizations were actively being funded in the south. And they thought they should direct their efforts towards countering them. And and there is a lot of content on YouTube, on social media. So then coming back to the show on Rakshana TV where they would hold debates. So some of the people again that they would debate, and these seem like very again organized, polite, as in definitely not.
Shouting match like on English TV channels.
Yes, everyone would take turns, and they would be very. Someone would introduce and moderate, and it was very proper. So some of the guests, like there was one guy called Karnakar who runs a channel called Shivashakti. It's a big channel. He was one of the people who was named as a suspect after Praveen died. So, and these are people who say very wise, like Karnakar, for example. One of the debates was about a film he had made, a 1 hour long film, which has like 2 million views on YouTube. Where the whole movie is about how Christian pastors are con men. They are all faith healers and they're lying to people, and yeah, that's the whole film. And it's a very problematic portrayal of Christian pastors. But they invite him to this Rakshana TV studio. They sit and they argue point by point.
But did these debates get heated? Was there animosity also? Because in the WhatsApp group, you said that it was very controlled. But what was happening on TV?
Again, from what I have seen, for example, is Karnakar. When he would make content on his channel, the way he would talk about Praveen was very, he would mock him, he would, belittle him and everything. He would say really vile things, mean things. But in these Rakshana TV debates, everyone was civil. Maybe because it's televised, maybe because you're in front of the person, whatever the reasons were. They were a lot more, civilized and controlled.
So anyway, before we go back into the discussion, let me remind you, you must go read the story. It's on the main page of the News Minute by Janvi. And after reading the story, do write to us, tell us what you thought about it. So Janvi, coming back to the debates, right? He also faced threats from both Islamic preachers and Islamic and Hindu fundamentalists is what his supporters believed, no?
Yes, but from what I have found, the threats were from one Muslim leader from Nellore, and this happened just about a month before he died. I think that's one big reason that it exploded the way it did, because you find this person dead, and just a month ago he had faced threats, and he had written a very detailed Facebook post where he said he asked the Telugu state's governments to save him from this man.
Praveen wrote a status. So he clearly mentioned that he was facing death threats from this person. This was about a statement he had made about how in Islam women are not treated equally. So then he apologized, but he's still stuck by his statement. So Praveen apologized for what he said, but he apologized only for conflating, for attributing those statements to the Prophet. But he said, I still stand by my criticism. If this is what your scriptures say, you need to explain why they are biased against women. So when he died, immediately people assume that it has to be a hate crime, right? And I was actually looking at the press meet which the IG of Eluru Range, Ashok Kumar, held on, I think, the 26th of April. No, the April 12th, where it's an extraordinary press meet because they bring 64 CCTV footage. I mean, normally when a murder happens or any death happens, hardly 2-3 CCTV footage all of the cops will bring. But here they had 64 footages, and they said they had much more. And they basically plotted his entire journey from Hyderabad to Rajamundry. Then they show each place where he falls down on the side of the street. They bring witnesses who, according to them, were sure that his speech was slurred, that he was intoxicated. And they also had these videos where a man who's wearing a helmet goes to liquor shops and he's buying alcohol, right? So the police believe that it was a tight case, that they had proved everything because they had CCTV footage. But despite that, why were people not willing to believe?
I think that distrust comes from a bunch of coincidences. Firstly, the threat by the Muslim leader just before he died. Another thing is that he changed his travel plans in the last minute. So I think people were wondering why. I mean, they thought that was suspicious. another thing is that as soon as he died, so people figured out that it was Praveen, and he wasn't extremely famous across the state, but I think locally or Christians who would follow theology, who were, tapped into these more organized groups, they would know him. So for them it was a very big deal, and then the police, I think, perhaps initially did not understand why he was such a big deal. So one of the first interactions between these, so people had gathered at the hospital to just ask what had happened, and they wanted to see the CCTV footage of how he died because they were sure there was foul play. And I think initially there was reluctance from the police because maybe they didn't understand why it was such a big deal. So I think the mistrust started from there, and then finally when they did get to see the CCTV footage, it was just in the dark, a headlight moving and then some dust rising, which doesn't prove anything according to them. So from the start, they decided that whatever evidence the police is presenting is not enough. Then comes the CCTV footage, which of him accidentally falling a bunch of times before that final incident, and also apparently visiting at least 3 liquor stores. These again, so it's a summer afternoon that he leaves around 11 from Hyderabad. So people kept asking how come he never took off his mask or his helmet throughout the journey. Again, they found that suspicious.
And why would he buy 3 kinds of alcohol, right? He bought gin, beer, and whiskey.
Yes. Again, these are questions that don't, I mean, if you want to find something, if you have decided that it's suspicious, then it's hard to answer these questions. For the police, because people asked, how come you have just these convenient visuals? And how come he never removes his helmet? Or even when he falls off the bike during an accident, he doesn't take off his helmet. He just, sits back up and never removes it. So they asked them, and how come you have visuals of him paying and buying alcohol,
But never consuming.
but not drinking? So they find all of these suspicious. But the police say that we did everything we could, and we found out, we found this much footage. This is just what we found, and it's a coincidence that this is what it is.
But we have seen the script play out before, right? For example, for those watching this from states which are not Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, think of Sushant Singh Rajput's death. Whatever the explanations were, there is a bunch of people who don't believe that this is what happened to Sushant. But there is a difference between Sushant Singh and Praveen Pagadala, that Praveen did face threats. Praveen was doing a dangerous job in many ways, not unlike Sushant Singh, who of course later theories were made about nepotism and why he was a threat to the nepots of Bollywood, etc. So there is a fundamental difference between these two people, but I'm saying that's how theories emerge. Janhvi, in her story, has seen the postmortem report, which I think everybody has by now. So the first postmortem report, this is another reason why there was confusion. The first postmortem report said that there was 120 ml liquid in the stomach, but there is no smell of alcohol. Then the viscera, which is the chemical analysis of the organs, were done, in which alcohol was found in 3 different organs. But that report, a lot of people had not seen even when we were covering the story, including Praveen's friends. So there is a first postmortem, then there's a viscera report, and then there is a final report. So in the final report, the team of 3 doctors conclude that yes, it is because of alcohol that he had this accident. But since the viscera report, which is in the middle, had not been seen by people, they did not believe it. So Janhvi's story has that viscera report, the screenshot is there. However, a forensic expert we spoke to said that it is a bit strange that the police do not have any test done on the blood alcohol, because that is something that is immediately done. So we are not trying to reinvestigate the death or anything, but these are things that we stumbled upon, and these are some questions which are there in that story. Do read. But Janhvi, to really close this a discussion and also to encourage people to read, give us a social context, right? There is a reason why Christians, especially Dalit Christians of Andhra Pradesh and maybe in Telangana also, were rallying behind Praveen. What was that context?
Okay, so one is just what was happening politically in the state for the past few years, right? So a lot of, firstly, Andhra Pradesh has a very huge a considerable Christian population, and a lot of them are Dalits. And so when Jagan came to power in 2019, um, he faced a lot of attacks over him being Christian. It started almost immediately, and BJP and then eventually even TDP were constantly, every week we would hear something or the other about how churches are taking over Tirupati, or forced conversions are happening in Tirumala. And
Temples are being destroyed.
yes, idols are being desecrated. Cross symbol is being displayed in the Tirumala temple lights. All sorts of things, which I think created a sense of hostility towards Christians. At the same time, people like Pawan Kalyan sort of pushed forward this idea that there were a lot of forced conversions happening. So, and people like Karnakar, whom I mentioned earlier, they would also talk about pastors as if they were luring people, and anyone who would convert to Christianity is gullible or is. So there were a lot of these ideas.
And by the time Praveen died, which is 2025, Pawan Kalyan had almost moved to the other side fully. Even the Tirupati fish and beef tallow controversy also had happened, right?
So he had, by then Pawan Kalyan had become the deputy chief minister, and he was demanding a Sanatana Dharma protection board, and he was talking about animal fat in the Tirupati laddu, which was later disproven. But this sense had also heightened, and the sense of hostility had also, I think, heightened. And like Christian leaders we spoke to said that this did kind of have an effect on the ground. Even among Hindus, people would complain about seeing too many churches, and as if there was a sense of as if there are a lot of conversions happening, and a lot of the Christian population increasing or whatever, which led to a sense of hostility towards them.
And one thing I want to point out, when Janvi was saying, she was talking about the Christian population in Andhra Pradesh and how many of them are Dalits. I can already see our YouTube comments filling with people saying, but there are no Dalits and Christians. That's not true. We know that there are Dalits among Christians, and there has been court cases asking for reservation for Dalit Christians, which the government does not allow. Even Andhra Pradesh, Jagan Mohan Reddy did make a move, right, to give reservations.
He passed a resolution in the assembly in 2023, which was opposed by BJP at the time. So Praveen's death happened at a time when the state's politics, at least on the surface, seemed to be moving to the right. And although the state hadn't seen a lot of communal violence, or perhaps almost none, so in this atmosphere, when Praveen died, that frame of minorities persecution was there. And there were these coincidences of facing threats. And maybe if it was any other Christian leader, we may not have seen this kind of movement, but there is so much content of him online, taking on the RSS, taking on Hindutva fundamentalism, taking on Sanatana Dharma and caste inequality, very articulate videos. And just, I think people, a lot of the strongest advocates, there are 4 petitions in the High Court demanding that the police reopen this case. And I think the strongest advocates of Praveen are people who hadn't met him personally. But I think he's had this like impact on people where they've developed some kind of a parasocial relationship with him, because there were so many videos where he would talk about all kinds of things. There was one woman whom I spoke to who had just had a girl child, and she said he would talk about parenting and how a girl's father should take care of her. He would, like I said, there are men's day speeches, women's day speeches, just
very everyday stuff.
Everyday stuff. Should as a Christian, should you wear a bottu? Is it okay to let your kids in school do a Bharatanatyam dance? So there's so much content from like politics to scriptures to like how to live your life as a Christian. So I think his presence and the way he speaks and everything, it's easy to follow. So I think a lot of people have been watching his content a lot after his death, and there are videos of him specifically talking about receiving death threats, about talking about forgiving people who kill people in the name of religion. So again, I think a lot of things just fell into place in terms of a narrative, and people just have come to see him as a martyr. And
So it's a very long story. It's divided into 5 chapters, almost 10,000 words, Janvi, in which we say in the beginning itself, there's not a reinvestigation, but we are trying to look at Praveen's life, his death, and what his afterlife is all about, right? Because as Janvi said, his videos are getting even more popular now. We see Sakshi Apologetics doing more work in states like Kerala and even Tamil Nadu. So there are small books being published on Amazon.com. In fact, one of them told us that around 40 small booklets have been published after Praveen's death. So a lot of work is being done. So do read the story, because Janvi takes you through what it means to be a Christian apologetic. Then she tells you all about the accident, the theories, the reports that she has seen. And I must add here that we had only a few of the medical reports. It was actually a News Minute reader who also had gotten all the reports from the police through an RTI. Many people had not gotten RTI replies, but this particular person had the RTI reply and he sent it to us. So thanks to him also, it was a random reader who reached out to us and actually sent the document. Janvi has spoken to investigators in the case, to people who have gone to court, including Dalit Congress leader Harsha. So do read that story. It's called Praveen Pagadala, The Life, Death and Political Afterlife of a Christian Apologetic. Read it, write to us and tell us what you think. Thank you very much, Janvi, for coming all the way to Bengaluru. She actually lives and reports out of Hyderabad, but I forced her to come to Bengaluru to do this video. So thank you for that, Janvi.
thank you.